So it looks like Line is not as hurt as we originally thought, which is awesome. The Golden Knights get to the top of the mountain, at least for now. And Erik Karlsson and the Sens are back in the news. Pierre Dorian is going to keep this show in content for years to come. I just have a feeling. Plus, it's Open Phone Friday. Open Phones Friday. 631-438-1768. Anything you want to talk about. Forget what we're talking about on the show. Forget the topics I just said. Anything you want to talk about, anything at all, you can call in. The phones are open. 631-438-1768 on a Friday night hockey talk show. Yes, indeedy. Whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, comment in the comment section. Let me know that you're here. Thumbs up all around. It's Open Phones Friday. Anything you want to talk about, anything at all, you can call into the show. We'll keep the phones open. 631-438-1768. That's 631-438-1768. Our very first Open Phones Friday here on the Hockey Talk Show. We do have a couple of topics to hit up, and so give me a minute or two on the phones. You can call in, but it'll take me a minute or two to get to it. But I do want to set the table with some of the hockey topics of the day today, and see what you guys want to talk about. And plus, overall, we're just going to let the audience build on Facebook and YouTube Live, as that usually takes a few moments for everybody to get the notifications and then hop right in to the Hockey Talk Show. But if you want on the phones, 631-438-1768 is the number. Facebook and YouTube Live, and of course, we're over at the Red Light Hockey page, which we are very appreciative. They allow us to continue to go into the page each and every week here. A phenomenal place to talk hockey. If you're interested, join NHL Red Light Hockey on Facebook. What's up, Chris? How you guys doing? Kentucky Fried Chicken. I don't know what that means. Is that a Kentucky Fried Friday? Louis, how are you, man? We're talking about whatever you guys want to talk about. It's Open Phones Friday. Any topic goes. I will tackle anything. Anything you guys want to talk about, you can call in 631-438-1768. 631-438-1768. I said I wouldn't prepare anything. I have prepared 3 things that I can roll through quite quickly. So anything that you would like to talk about, phone lines are wide open at 631-438-1768. It's on the thingamajigga here. There you go. Where is it? It's on that side. Let's start with the Vegas Golden Knights. A big congratulations to them on reaching the 100-point plateau. For an expansion franchise, just an unbelievable feat. One hell of a thing to do. And they did it in the worst possible fashion. I mean, the worst possible fashion. They reached a goal while losing, which if you've ever had your team, as they say, back their way into the playoffs, that's kind of what happens. And that's kind of what the Vegas Golden Knights did. They lost the game, but in overtime, and they got the point that they needed to get to 100 points. The first team in National Hockey League history to reach such heights. So it's a great, and look, it's a great thing to have done. But boy, what a crummy way to do it. What a crummy way to do it. I mean, just like that's literally the definition of backing into something. They're obviously going to get more. They've got a bunch of games left. I think they're going to be great in the playoffs. I don't think this tarnishes their season by any means, but it's just a crummy way to get 100 points. losing a game in overtime. It is just really, really crummy. So Vegas Golden Knights, congratulations to them. Gerard Gallant had a couple of nice things to say after the game, and I quote, "It's a huge number, definitely satisfied and happy with that. What do we have? 8 games left in the season, so let's keep on adding to the points, but it's definitely a huge feat for our group so far." So congratulations to the Golden Knights for reaching the 100-point plateau. Certainly a nice thing. Quickly, Patrick Laine, before we go to the open phones here. John's got it. John, you want to talk about the Islanders? John, you call in, man. Let's rap about the Islanders. Let's do our Islander talk. Let's do it right now. I say we do it right now. We're doing open phones Friday. 631-438-1768 if you want to call in. Patrick Laine, we thought maybe a couple of weeks. Then we thought maybe day to day. And now I think he may be in the lineup tonight. He's a game time decision for the Winnipeg Jets as they take on, where are they? They're going to host the Ducks. They're at home tonight. So 8 o'clock. So about 10 or 12 minutes or so, we'll know where the Patrick Laine status is for this injury. And we'll see what happens there. You don't want him going out, obviously, because that helps the race for the Rocket Richard. And, of course, we're looking at the Hart. All right, we'll go to the 702 area code. Who's on the line on the Hockey Talk Show?
What is going on? Hey, this is Vegas Golden Knight coverage. This is Louie, and I'm just here to talk about some Vegas Golden Knights with you.
What's up, Louie? How you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. First call on the open phones Friday. You've got the honor. Congratulations. That is as good as your Vegas Golden Knights reaching 100 points.
Hey, what can I say? We're just reaching all kinds of goals.
Give me the vibe, Louie, because you're there. And by the way, the channel is Vegas Golden Knights coverage on YouTube. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
All right. Look up Louie. He does good recaps of all the games. What I like about your channel, Louie, is you give me the feeling of what it's like to be in Vegas, sans all the things that you can get in trouble for. That's what's good about the channel.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm just trying to show people that, hey, there's more to Vegas than just the Strip and all that. And there's actual people here. We live in houses. We don't live in hotels. And there's a hockey fan base here. It's just nice to see that other people are starting to take us serious as serious fans here.
Wait, do you guys use money or do you pay for everything with poker chips?
Oh, we do it in poker chips, though. You know, all my tips, I just leave $1 chips on everyone's tables.
All right, so 100 points. Give me a vibe of the city right now. Are they still in love with the Golden Knights? Is it still something that's talked about? Are you still seeing jerseys around town?
Man, they're everywhere. I mean, I drive down the street and everyone has a decal on the back of their car. And I see people that are old fans of, you know, whatever the team was before. Like I was a Coyote fan before. You know, you'll see Red Wing decals, but then next year you'll have this big Vegas Golden Knight one. So, you know, there's a lot of dual fans here now, but Vegas is taking over the primary spot.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to see. And how do you feel now to have a winning team? Because you obviously you've never felt that before with the Coyotes.
Well, I mean, I thought that. I mean, I saw us, you know, make the playoffs a couple of times. But this is just unexpected. It's a bonus. We've all expected to. You know, I was expecting maybe 60, 70 points max. Was I expecting 100 points? Absolutely not. And the fact that we're in a playoff spot, it's honestly just a bonus. And sometimes I kind of feel like it might hurt our fan base because, you know, people, at least the fans that are new to hockey, this is their first season just being into hockey, I feel like they could be a little bit spoiled because they don't know what it's like to be in a spot where, you know, you get 70 points for the whole season and you're not in a playoff spot. Because a lot of people now will lose like 3 games straight, and a lot of Vegas fans are thinking it's the end of the world, and they're just trying to get used to what it's like in a hockey season of 82 games.
Yeah, man. Talk to Islander fans, Edmonton Oilers fans, Calgary fans. They're going through a collapse right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's tough, dude. It is tough. So over on Louis' channel, Vegas Golden Knights coverage, he does mostly recaps, but every now and then he takes the camera outside and runs around and goes to the games and stuff. Are you got any more games on the slide? There's only 8 games left, so I can understand if you're not making the 8 games.
Yeah, well, I want to at least go to the one, because like I said, I told you I was a Coyote fan. My oldest son is named Shane after Shane Doan, And I'm thinking about going to the Arizona game when they play it.
That would be good. That would be a nice thing to, yeah, because you want to see your old team play your new team. I would imagine that would be kind of cool to go through.
Yeah. Yeah, and so cool. My 4-year-old can get away with wearing an Arizona jersey. She's named after the jersey.
Nice. Now,
but unfortunately,
go ahead.
I got to go right now because I got 3 kids that are losing their minds.
All right, brother. Good chatting with you, man. I appreciate having you on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'll plan on calling on the future Friday.
You got it.
All right, have a good one.
All right, there goes Louis there, Vegas Golden Knights coverage. It's Open Phone Friday, so whatever you guys want to talk about, 631-438-1768, 631-438-1768. Jerseys in Vegas, it gets up to 100 easy there. I hated that heat. Ovi for the Rocket. Isles offer Montreal their 2 first-rounders and Ho-Sang for Price. Deal or no deal? I don't think that deal goes down. I don't know. Carey Price is such a wild card for me. He's the best goaltender in the league. I mean, hands down, the best. His injuries are an issue. I don't know if he just has the stink of a bad Montreal team on him or if there's really cause for concern with Carey Price. I don't know. You love him when he's healthy and when he's on. It's just he likes to disappear from the lineup for long periods of time. A lot of injury history there. A lot of injury history. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if 2 first-rounders and a highly touted prospect would be enough for the Montreal Canadiens for Carey Price. Plus, he has that long 10-year deal. Oh, my goodness. Here's why I would say no to that. And this is me personally. This is just my thing. I hate long deals for goaltenders. I just don't like it. I don't like a long-term deal for goaltenders. I really, really don't. Carey Price, Henrik Lundqvist, these guys earned it and they deserve it. But if I'm the general manager, I am never signing a goaltender for more than 5 or 6 years. Just not going to do it. Just not doing it. It's so fickle. Goaltending in the National Hockey League is so fickle. It's not even funny. Like, you cannot rely on goaltending whatsoever. It's a rarity. And some of these guys, like Carey Price, like Henrik Lundqvist, the $10 million deals, it's too much, man. It's too much. Like, Fleury's a good bargain because he came around in the right time. You know? I don't know what Fleury's making. I feel like he's making considerably less than what Lundqvist and Price are making. It's so, like, you look at Fleury's career, and you just don't have goalies that are that great for that long. Look at Cam Talbot. Look at Yaroslav Halak. I mean, look at Corey Schneider. He's struggling heavily in Jersey right now. Corey Schneider is struggling to get his spot back on the roster. Fleury's making 5.7. I don't mind paying a goaltender 5.7. $10 million for 10 years. Eek. It's honestly, it's a lottery I would never want to win. I know this is weird. If you're asking me, does Price deserve that contract? Yes. Should Montreal have given it to him? Yes. They had no other choice. You got to sign Carey Price. But to be honest with you, if I was in that scenario, I wouldn't want to be in that. I wouldn't want to be in that scenario. I wouldn't want to take that deal on. Aaron, Price will never win a ring with Montreal. Karlsson resigns. Isles better make a big run for him. I don't think the Islanders are in on Erik Karlsson. Not as long as Garth Snow is the general manager. It's not happening. Let's talk about funky general managers. Erik Karlsson, this is the story today now. Now, take this for what you will, because there is a caveat to this story as well. Pierre Dorian was he has a quote out there in the press today, but this was part of a season ticket holder event. Now, I say that because you should know that when a general manager is talking to the media, he's talking to the media. He's talking to the fan base through the media, but he's talking to the media. When he's talking to season ticket holders at a season ticket holder event, he's talking to the people that contribute a large amount of money to the franchise. Season ticket holders are everything. TV people, corporate sponsorships, season ticket holders. That's your hierarchy right there. TV money, corporate sponsorship money, season ticket holder money. That's how it works. And you wouldn't go into a corporate sponsor and go, I don't think we're going to sign Erik Karlsson. You just wouldn't do it. You just wouldn't do it. You wouldn't turn around to Pepsi. Pepsi goes, you guys are getting a lot of eyes on you. We want to give you a lot of money to, advertise. You're not going to turn around to them and go, we're not going to have Erik Karlsson next year. So maybe hold on to that thing. How the phone works, you just keep calling until you get through. 631-438-1768. That is basically it. No, don't leave a voicemail. Just call, and I will put you on the first chance I get. That's how it works. Super simple. Super simple. You may not hear me say hi to you quickly enough, but if you're hearing me on the line, you're on the line, and then I'll get to you next. That's essentially how the Open Phone Fridays are going to roll. So if you want to get in on it, 631-438-1768. So keep in mind who his audience is, because that is super important to the story. But he turned around to season ticket holders at an event, and according to the Ottawa Citizen, he said that they have every intention on offering Erik Karlsson a contract. Every intention on offering Erik Karlsson a contract. This is after an entire year of, can we have your no trade list? By the way, can you take back the comments that you said, Eugene Melnick not looking at you at the photo? He turns around and says, Erik is a fantastic player. The relationship between he, Eugene, and myself is strong. I want all of you to know that. When we can offer Erik a contract on July 1st, we will do so. I mean, these are the kind of turnarounds that the World Wrestling Entertainment Association can't even write. Let's go to the phones next. Who we got on the Hockey Talk Show? Who's on the line?
Hi, it's Chris from Canada.
Chris from Canada, what's going on, man? It's Open Phone Fridays on the Hockey Talk Show. What would you like to talk about?
Something I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but the show wasn't around back then, and it's a little bit of a damper on the Golden Knights season, actually. That's Vadim Shipachyov.
Oh, my God. Who's heard of that? Who's heard of this guy since he left us? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I was trying to find out information on this guy ever since, I saw what he was doing in the KHL, and it's up and coming, and they had videos about him in Vegas and everything, and everybody's excited to get him, and he could have gone anywhere, and he chose Vegas, and then they just buried the guy.
Yeah, the Shipachyov saga was a weird one, because I can actually remember coming to the defense of the Golden Knights during that saga a little bit, where they kept sending him down to the minors, or they sent him down to the minors, and the rumors started floating around that they wanted to bury that contract and get rid of him. And I was like, that's crazy. There's no way they would sign him for 2 years and then try and get rid of him. And then essentially that is exactly what happened. So it was a weird move that ironically worked in their favor, because as you can see, the Golden Knights hit 100 points this season. It's always very strange when you're dealing with Russian players, in particular. Every sort of nationality has their own personality on the ice and off the ice. Russians, the Finns, Canadians, Americans, they all have their different sort of styles. And I know in general, when you're dealing with a player who doesn't speak the language, it's even more difficult We see this a lot with the Yankees. The Yankees, for a while there, were employing all kinds of, interpreters for their pitching staff and all their players because they wanted them to feel more comfortable. So I think it was a combination with Chipacheo of he was a little uncomfortable. He thought too highly of himself. And the National Hockey League is a strange place where they don't really care how skilled you are. You've got to conform and play by their rules, which is a great rule book to have. But if you're not down with their systems, it can be a clash. And I think we saw that with Chipacheo. He comes over, he signs the deal. He's a pro in Russia. He comes here. He thinks he's going to be a pro here. I think he picked Vegas because he thought this is my best chance to play flat out my first years here. And, then he gets in here and he's got to deal with the coach's system. And then the general manager doesn't like some of the things he's doing. And then he gets sent down and it's one thing after the next. And it eventually just kind of falls apart. And now he's in a scenario where I think like Kovalchuk, if he wants to come back, he's property of Vegas, I think, for another season at least. And he may have to sign with them again if he wants to get moved. But it was a weird little thing, and I didn't think it was going to go down the way that it went down. But it was a good signing by McPhee. I mean, he won the sweepstakes. He got him in there, but it just it's one of those scenarios where sometimes it looks so great on paper, but other times it just flat out doesn't work, and that was one that just didn't work.
Yeah, I thought it was a really great signing. I mean, the fact they got him, to me, he was going to be their franchise player, and I think he thought so too, where he could have gone anywhere. I just felt like they never gave him a fair shake. Even when they brought him up, they put him on the third line and no power play time. He still scored a goal, playing on the line with Alex Tuck at the time.
Yeah, well, wasn't that the thing, too? I mean, he had some impressive moments, but much like all the other young players that are getting used to this. And again, you can play in Russia, you can play in Finland. Like, the game is different. You come here, it's a different game than it is elsewhere. So you got to kind of get used to how it works. And I think the speed of this game, I still think the National Hockey League is the fastest league in the whole world. And that's a whole other thing to get used to. I mean, how many kids do we see even who play in North America who dominate in junior or dominate in the A, and then they get up here and they do nothing for 12 games? It happens all the time. So it's a game that you have to get used to and you have to figure out, and you have to just do it by repetition until it starts slowing down in your own mind. And then that's when you're able to really get better. And he just didn't have the patience for that. I noticed there was not a lot of defense to his game, and coaches hate that. All coaches, but it's a common thing that happens. I mean, you look at the Islanders with Joshua Ho-Sang; they did the same exact thing to him. Only thing is, he didn't up and leave and go back to Russia. That's the only difference, really.
Yeah, it's just been a topic that I've been itching to talk about for so long because it just kind of got thrown out of the news. Nobody even talked about it. It just disappeared. And I couldn't find any articles. I don't even know really what happened between, I know I read quite a bit about the translation was a big thing. The fact that he couldn't speak English, his family was here and he didn't know what was going on, being sent down and come back up and sent down where he thought he was going to get all the time. But it's just something I've been, wanting to talk about for months.
I think he comes back, though. I think you see him again eventually. I mean, somebody will be desperate enough to try and make an attempt at him. He just has far too much skill, as we're seeing with Kovalchuk, who's going to make a comeback. He's gonna come back. There's just something about it, because it's the best league in the world. There's something about players wanting to do it here. So maybe when he gets a little bit older. I mean, I know he's in his 30s, but maybe... Yeah,
he's already in his 30s, and I don't know. He's got a sour taste in his mouth now.
Yeah, I mean, quite possibly, but who knows? I mean, I don't know. Who knows? If he, I think it's always great if you can join a team, where you got some Russians on there, and they can speak the native language, and they can help you out. Because think about it. You're getting yelled at in a foreign language. You're thinking to yourself, I'm doing everything right. What's this guy yelling at me for? They don't necessarily play a tight defensive game in the KHL. So they let their stars go run wild and score. And in the NHL, coaches love to take their stars and try and make them play defense. I mean, Ovechkin, just going down the list of all the coaches that have tried to get their scorers to play defense. It's something that they love to do. So, yeah, it's a good point about Shipachyov. I don't know what winds up happening to him. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him at some point again in the future. Any general manager is always going to try and do whatever they can to get good talent inexpensively. And he's going to be one of those options for somebody down the road.
All right. Well, I appreciate the talk.
Thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. I'm always watching. You know that.
Thanks, man. All right. There goes Chris up in Canada on the Open Phones Friday talking about Vadim Shipachyov. It's a good topic. Man, I remember that we were actually around. The Hockey Talk Show was actually around for that. We were just very, very tiny. We're still very tiny. We're still just an upstart show, but the growth's been huge so far. I think we crossed 800 on Facebook and 200 on YouTube and the podcast. I forget what the podcast numbers were the other day, but I just looked at it like, you got to be kidding me. There's more people listening to the show on podcast than on Facebook and YouTube, which I get. I mean, when you have a face like this, you understand stuff like that. Back to John. Karlsson in a very sensitive situation right now. Personally, got to be careful there. Yeah, we talked about this, the passing of his little baby boy. Just devastating. Just a devastating scenario. He's had an awful year. Both professionally, his team's not winning. All these rumors that everybody wants to get rid of him. And then you suffer what's a real tragedy. I mean, anybody can get over a losing season. That's nothing compared to the health of your loved ones. And then, his this with his son and his wife. And it's unbearable. I said the other night, I have very, very, very dear friends of mine that just went through the same exact thing. And it was devastating for all of us. It's not an easy thing to deal with, and the weird thing is, you don't realize, but you got to deal with it for a very long time, a very, very long time when it comes to the loss of a child. So that's something that you never get over it. It never leaves you. It's always a part of you. So yeah, poor Karlsson has had a rough year. But it's just bizarre to open up the papers this morning. Not that I open up the papers, I read an iPad. And see Pierre Dorian now talking about extending Erik Karlsson the first chance they get on July 1st. I don't get it. We're coming up on the end of our time. If we want to sneak in another call, if you're watching and you want to buzz in, 6-3. You know what's funny? The 10 people that were like, you got to do Open Phone Fridays are not here on the show. The 10 people that wrote me and they're like, you got to do this, or I'm going to call in about this, are literally not here. But I get people have personal lives. I get it. 631-438-1768 to call into the Hockey Talk Show. Open Phones Friday. Anything you want to talk about. We talked about Vegas, talked about Vadim Shipachyov. We're wrapping up with Erik Karlsson here. I wonder too if Erik Karlsson drags this thing out like a John Tavares, Steven Stamkos situation. I wonder if he drags this thing on for a year, because he doesn't have to resign. He doesn't really have to resign. He can drag this out for. I mean, if he doesn't resign on July 1st, which a lot of these guys don't. A lot of them take however long they take, and then they wind up re-signing. If he doesn't re-sign on July 1st, you won't be able to walk around in Ottawa without seeing the stories that he's leaving. 631-438-1768. If you got a question, want to talk about something. That being said, John Tavares. Why in the hell is John Tavares playing for the New York Islanders right now? That's a question I would like answered. Why on earth, if you're sitting there on the cusp of a $10 to $11 to $12 million contract for the next 6 to 7 to 8 years, well, probably 7 or 8 years. 8 if he signs with the Islanders, 7 if he goes somewhere else. Why on earth are you putting yourself in the lineup the last 11 games, 10 games, 12 games of this season? This guy, I mean, I wish no harm on anybody. So, but I'm a very cautious dude. If a puck hits this guy in the eye, if he gets knocked on his face, if that concussion comes, if John Tavares goes down with a concussion in these last 4 or 5 games, where does that leave him with his contract? I think he's still so good that teams are going to be fawning all over him still, but that's going to affect the entire process. What the hell are you doing in the lineup these last couple of games? Pride? Come on, man. Believe me, I'm all about pride, but you got to be smart. And I was worried about this for him personally all throughout the whole entire season. You don't re-sign on July 1st with a year left, you are leaving yourself exposed for a very, very potentially bad outcome. Like I said, you get that puck to the eye or stick to the eye or whatever. Name any weird, bizarre, catastrophic injury you can think of. Where does that leave you? What are you playing for? If you sat there and evaluated this team the entire year, why are you still in the lineup? Take a look around the National Hockey League, by the way. Take a look around. Take your pick. Take your pick of teams that are eliminated that have guys that are going on IR. They're all around. Monahan now is the latest, likely out for this. I mean, you just take a look around. They're all of them. All of them. Oh, I got this injury. I got that injury. You know, they're all making their injuries sound worse. Nobody wants to play in these games when they mean nothing, when you have the rest of your life to worry about providing for you and your family on the line. Again, that stick comes up, pops your eye, and you have a bad eye injury. Where does that leave you? I didn't think it was that smart for John Tavares to drag this out for the whole year, just like I didn't think it was smart for Steven Stamkos to do the same. But if that was your course of action, then that was the risk you take. But this is such a different part of that now because you're in a scenario where you're playing for nothing. The only thing that can happen to you right now is lose. That is it. There's no, I'm going to score this, or I'm going to reach this plateau, or I'm going for this record, or we're trying to make the playoffs. No, there's no positive outcome for playing in John Tavares' situation. The only outcomes are negative. Why on earth is this guy still in the lineup? Will somebody tell me? Because it doesn't make any sense to me. Because if I'm John's representation, I'm going to say, boy, your hamstring looks a little sore there. And when he responds with, how can you see my hamstring? I'm going to make sure I'm already hand-cocked, ready to slap him. Ready to slap away. Because it doesn't make any sense. Joe, he's showing off for the next team if he goes. He's got nothing to show, man. He's got nothing to show. Everybody knows what they're getting with John Tavares. The worst skating best player in the game. That's what you're getting. You're getting the worst skating best player in the game. Do the Islanders do a sign and trade? You know, I treasure the hockey insiders on both sides of the aisle. TSN and ESPN and Sportsnet and NBC, wherever there's a hockey insider, I treasure them. Whether it's Pierre LeBrun or Bob McKenzie or, Don Cherry's not really a hockey insider, but Don Cherry, all of them, they're all treasures to me. But I think it was Pierre LeBrun who came up with this absurd concept of a sign and trade for John Tavares. There's no way such a thing occurs. In fact, we haven't really spent much time with it, but you know what? I'll wrap up on this one. We'll wrap up with the sign and trade because I haven't wanted to spend a lot of time with it because there's just been so much other things to talk about. But there's no friggin' way in any scenario that John Tavares takes part in a sign and trade. There's just no way. For what? To squeak out an extra year so that the Islanders can recoup what? A 4th round draft pick for this? A 3rd round draft? Like there's no winners in this scenario. And again, like there's so many reasons why this doesn't happen. I'm surprised this came out of the mouth of Pierre LeBrun. And forgive me if it wasn't Pierre LeBrun, but I'm pretty sure it was he the first to come up with this idea of John Tavares doing a sign-in trade. I get if I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my little board, I'm going, I have nothing to talk about. What can I invent? I see how it came out of his mouth, but I still wouldn't have said it. I still wouldn't have said it because it's just so filled with dumb stupidity. It's inexcusable. If you're John Tavares and you're going to sign a long-term contract, you're John Tavares. McDavid just got $12 million. Everybody who's making 10, let's say for argument's sake, he falls in the realm of 10-5. Let's say 11. Let's say 11 for argument's sake. You're going to make $66 million for the next 6 years. Do you give a flying frig if you make 77? Because I have news for you. After the first 20 or 30 mil, it's all basically the same. It's all basically the same. Now, I've sat here on this show, and again, I've worked for the National Hockey League. I've talked intimately with players. I've seen them. I've seen how they act. I've seen them with their families. I've seen the cold fear in a player's eye when he walks off the ice for the very last time, knowing full well he'll never play the game again, and how the hell is he going to support himself for the next 4? I've seen that look. So I always say players got to get whatever they can get. They work for the lucky ones work for a 10 to 12 to 14 year period, and that is it. We get to work for 40 years. I know that sounds miserable for some of us with bad jobs, but it's a godsend. These guys get a small time frame to do what they love. Right? I like hosting shows. I got a radio show, I got this show, I got 2 other shows. I can do this for the rest of my life. So a player's got to get every bit that they can. But that being said, players on John Tavares' level, it doesn't really matter. The guy making $2 and $3 million a year has got to figure out a way. He's got to figure out a way to make that 10 mil he makes last for 60 years. $66 million, anybody can make that last for a lifetime. So there's no way John Tavares is worried about making that extra $11 million. If he stays with the Islanders, he's gonna sure as hell want it, and he deserves it. But if he goes to another team, there's no scenario in the last 10 games of the season where he goes to Islander management and says, I don't want to be here, but I really would like that 8th year, so can you trade me? I mean, can we do a sign and trade? Because, he's going to make $66 million or 70, because he can make 7 years. He's going to make $77 million. He's not worried about making 88. He's just not. He's just not. Middle class players in the National Hockey League that are making $1.5 million, $2 million, $3 million. That would be something that they would want to do. But then again, they're not valuable enough to do a sign and trade. And from the organization standpoint, there's no scenario where Garth Snow turns around and goes, look, everybody, look at the 3rd round draft pick I got. I didn't let Tavares walk away for nothing. I got a 3rd round draft pick, and everybody's happy. That's not a scenario that works either. So this idea of a sign and trade is just, insane. And one of the most insane ideas I've ever heard. And the fact that nobody slapped the ever-loving crap out of Pierre LeBrun when he was saying it is a very big surprise to me. Because even his other insiders got to be looking at that going, what are you kidding me? Come on, man. Have to think Tavares people are demanding the front office to change, to stay. He's getting money wherever he goes. Owners' silence throughout all this is maddening and downright insulting. Billboards are up. Isles ownership can't separate themselves from this fool Snow fast enough. Well, what's interesting is, and I've alluded to this at some point, and I don't expect Jonathan Ledecky to pull a Tom Dundon here and fire their GM with minimal amount of games left in the season. I think if he's going to get fired, he'll get fired in the offseason. I said this before, but I used to think that Garth Snow was here because he drafted John and he was his best bet to keep John. Now I think that Garth Snow might be the sacrifice to keep John. If John's not happy, then he's going to have to speak up. There's one person that can get Garth Snow fired like this today, and he wears 91 on his back. Nobody else. Nobody else can get this man fired. Ownership gave him one more year. By the way, I read everything. I read everything. Ownership gave Garth Snow one more year to like they were going to make the change last summer. They gave him one more year. I haven't lost faith in Jonathan Ledecky. I think he's too smart of a guy to think that he's going to keep Garth Snow with the season and the results that they had. Do I think he fires him amidst negotiations with the greatest player your franchise has ever seen? I don't know about that. But in no way, shape, or form, do I think that they let Tavares walk and Garth Snow stays. And by the way, I think that there will definitely be, and it will be as covert as possible. But I just have too much. I've seen the way Jonathan Ledecky operates. I don't know him personally. I don't know people who do know him. But I've just seen the way he operates. And he seems like too smart of a person to let this go belly up without consequence. But I think that at some point there will be a meeting between Ledecky himself and either John or John's representatives without Garth Snow there. And I think that conversation will be a very important one. Can John stay? Does John like the direction of the team? Because that's the awkwardness that's developing that nobody's talking about. There's a lot of hate being thrown Garth Snow's way, but look at it this way, because at some point, whether John says it to Garth or John's people say it to Jonathan Ledecky, but at some point when John says to his agent, I don't have any faith in Garth, I'd like to stay, but I don't like what happened this year. And the agency turns around and says to John Ledecky, look, John wants to stay, but he's worried about Garth. Garth will be gone like that. The real general manager of the Islanders from this June 15th on will wear 91 on his back. It will be just like Jack Eichel in Buffalo. He'll be able to call the shots. He'll have a direct line to ownership if he wants to stay. And again, why I was begging and pleading for Garth Snow to do something is he had to convince John to stay. He had to sell John, not ownership, not the fans, but John. Now, maybe John looks at this team and says, Barzell and Eberle and Bailey, and we got a good thing going. We just need some goaltending and a defenseman. I'll stay. I'll stick it out. Maybe that's it. But it's all in his hands. The whole organization is in his hands. If he wants Garth fired, he'll have him fired. If he says, you know what, Garth got Barzell here, he got this one here, he got that one here. Anders Lee he brought here. He's practically a 40-goal scorer this season. I'll stick it out. I know he can pull through. Then he'll stay. But I don't think that... I think that the silence you're hearing from ownership is not necessarily a comforting thing for Garth Snow. It's not a comforting thing for Garth Snow. And by the way, John Tavares does not go to the New York Rangers. No way, shape, or form. Doesn't do it. Even though he loves the area, he doesn't do it. He's got a better chance of going to the Devils than the New York Rangers. You could take that to the bank. Earlier in the season, it was a different story. When the Rangers were in contention, it's a different story. But there's just not enough pieces there. There's just not enough pieces with the Rangers. If they were 2 or 3 years into this build, maybe. But they're just starting over. He doesn't want to go through that. He's going to have plenty of offers from teams that are right there. He's going to have offers from some teams that are going into the playoffs, that are going into that we all know are going into the Stanley Cup final or the conference final. He's going to get offers from those teams. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Open Phone Friday. Maybe we'll try it one more time. We'll see. And plenty to go over. Big show next week planned, and we'll have some details on what we're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. So make sure you guys chime in for that. Joe, thanks so much. John, awesome comments. Michael, Evander, Chris for calling in. Louie, Adam, Aaron. If I missed anybody, apologies. Pleasure to